Hi there, and welcome to Roll on the Adventure, the podcast where we design role-playing games. Except this week we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be doing something slightly different. We're going to be talking about campaigns.
Yep, and world building specifically. I'm joining Purple here, and as far as I'm aware, the second half of the show will be Dimitri by himself going into his coolness.
Awesome. So, Roll on the Adventure as a format is very much focused around one-shot games, specifically short one-shot games, because of the necessities of how we're designing games quickly.
Yeah, and we have to design them to fit in a format which isn't you and your mates playing around the same house for 3 years.
That too, because that could be a very long podcast.
I mean, hey, I'd
there's
be
some
impressed.
brilliant ones out there.
Yeah, and I'd love to be involved in a podcast that lasts that long, but we're realists.
Okay, so you were going to talk a bit about campaign world building.
Yeah, so I've built I don't know how many campaign worlds, but I've run campaigns that have lasted years and years and years and years and years in the same world, and I'd like to think that it's given me a bit more insight than your average bear into what goes into a campaign. Well, but more importantly, what goes into a campaign that your players will play, because I mean so as I've mentioned, I don't know how many times on this podcast, I do paid for GMing, and I have had friends of mine and people who paid for games from me and that lot contact me and say, man, I'd love to run my own game, but running a pre-published adventure doesn't interest me, and building an entire campaign world is really intimidating. Like, I read Forgotten Realms and that thing's insane. So I kind of want to help those people. What is needed to make a campaign to play, not to publish, because to publish you need, you've got to attract as many people as possible, and a lot of people, they want to pay money for weight of paper. So ultimately, it comes down to the fact that world design is basically masturbatory. You will spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours designing a world, designing a map, laying out all the rivers, doing all the geopolitical nonsense and all that lot. And your players will interact with basically none of it. I mean, Purple, what's the longest running campaign set within the same world that you've been in?
I usually only run for a year or so at most. Currently running an Exalted game that's been going on 2 and a bit years now. Okay,
so that's within it. Are you running that in the actual Exalted world, or?
Yeah, I do have a real soft spot for Creation, which is what they call their world.
Okay.
It's I think there's a lot of it that's really well written. There's a lot of absolutely terrible stuff in some of the books, but once you've got a setting of that size, I have a large shelf of Exalted source books, and once you get to a certain size, you're gonna have some bloopers in there.
Yeah. But the thing is okay, so of the world of Creation, and over the 2 years, 2.5 years, how much of it have your players actually seen?
Out of things that are actually in the books, very little.
Yeah.
They've mostly interacted with NPCs, like custom NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in locations which are small enough not to be on the maps.
Yeah.
They've interacted with one major plot event.
Yeah,
so minions of one of the quite big threats.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how slow burn your campaigns normally are, but I dare say you try and at least keep your players involved on a kind of game-by-game basis, don't you?
Yeah, I'm very much a reactive GM.
Yeah. So, so you're looking at all of that time and effort that if you had written that entire campaign world and they have interacted with maybe 5%, if
it's
that.
More like 1.
Yeah, of that game world. And this is kind of the point I bang on about to newbie GMs, is that it's your players will not interact with your world. in the way you interact with your world. You are, you are the games master. You are the king of this reality. They go wherever the plot takes them. I have a campaign world, and if I can be fussed enough, I might kind of drop it in somewhere that people can look at. But it's called Borena. Okay, and the plot of it is that the world is dying, basically, but it's not dying as in like crops are failing and things like that. It's dying in the fantastic is leaving the world. Like,
oh, cool.
Yeah, so like great dragons are going to sleep and not waking up. The phoenixes aren't resurrecting. Elves and dwarves are being born less. Orcs are disappearing. The world is becoming mundane.
That's really interesting.
And there's various reasons for it. And I mean, this campaign world. So this was kind of I wrote it while I was depressed. It was supposed to be like it was basically therapy,
Okay.
And it goes into some areas of this campaign world go into a ludicrous amount of, I mean, a truly ludicrous amount of detail. So there's gator men.
Okay.
And I went into so they don't use money, their tokens are instead for like an hour of work.
Okay.
And depending on so like their version of gold, silver and copper coins is like, copper is you'll get an hour's work but it won't be amazing. Silver is like you'll get an hour's work and it will be at the level I work professionally. And gold is like I will work myself to death for you for that hour. I'll go absolutely gangbusters for you for an hour. Okay. And their whole economy is set up around like it's basically a codified favor economy, and it's and I tried really, really hard to make it as interesting as I possibly could.
Yeah.
So had 3 play groups interact with this world.
How many of them actually encountered the gator men?
Oh, they've encountered gator men. They've butchered them by the hundreds.
Never tried to buy anything from them then?
Yeah, or have anything bought. They've never interacted with the gator men in like a domestic setting. Gator men have always been mercenaries or whatever.
Okay.
So this like not inconsiderable amount of text that I wrote was useless. And as we've touched upon, like time is money, friend. Like ultimately,
well, quite literally, right?
Yeah.
In that case, at least.
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, the time I spent writing out all of that nonsense could have been better served in an area of the world the players were interested in.
Yeah.
And it really hit home because I mean, Borena I've never even managed to get a successful campaign off the ground with it, really. I don't know if you ever work on the 3-session rule like I do. Which is like...
I think I possibly work on similar things. Sort of
if a game can make it to 3 sessions, it's probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like if people flake before 3 sessions have happened, your game's probably got problems.
Yeah.
And so like I've never had Borena get past the 3-session rule. So I effectively spent weeks, months writing this thing that is useless for the actual act of playing the game,
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be someone out there who'll go, well, actually, I read everything. And it's like, great. But your average player in your average game doesn't. Hell, your average GM doesn't.
Yeah, I read the bits that I'm interested in mostly.
Yeah. Like when it comes
some of the stuff around it, so I've got some context.
Yeah, like when it comes to maps, I mean, I dare say you work in exactly the same principle as I do when it comes to maps. You just look at the map and go, "Ooh, that bit looks cool."
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's go there. It's like,
oh, there's this big empty bit next to 2 interesting features. Got that.
Yeah, ooh. And that's the thing. Like, it's trying to hammer. It's one thing I try and hammer into new players is like you should never, or new players and new GMs, you should never write more than you have to. And in campaign building, this goes triply, quadruply, quintuply so. Because it's just going to break your heart. It's why so many new GMs fail, because, they've just basically written a novel. And then the players are bumbling around their world, not interacting with the things they want to be. And they're like, come on, guys, go over there and do the thing. It's like, well, no, we're not interested. We're going to go, we're going to go punch that same NPC that we punch whenever we're in town. So, yeah, like, be aware that writing a game world for a game world's sake is, you're basically having a wank.
Yeah, it very much is. And I do enjoy sometimes just sitting and writing some game world stuff.
And I dare say you do sometimes enjoy just sitting and
try to keep the podcast clean.
I know, but that's the point. Like, it's not an inherently bad thing to occasionally do it, but when you're doing it in front of your friends, unless they're down for that,
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, there's sometimes I love sitting down and, like, I've got the campaign world I'm currently running. I am trying to keep it as faffing light as possible.
Yeah.
But it's quite tricky, really. Like, there's a city the players are in for this season of my campaign.
Yeah.
Which has got about 120 locations in it. And, I had to stop myself from writing out all 120 locations, because I knew what was going to happen. The players would latch on to one minor detail.
And then
they'd be like, cool, we want more like this. Oh, that's the only one.
So have you got any advice on either where to start or where you feel it's best to apply your efforts?
So I am a big, 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 big proponent of keep your players moving. Like, keep them doing something. Don't ever let players sandbox. And I know someone's going to get butt mad now and be like, well, that's just railroading of the highest order. And it's like, well, yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
But, it's railroading in terms of getting your players to do something so that they don't get bored.
Yeah.
Because, like, we've both had it. Usually at conventions, you run that game that people have signed up for, in some cases paid to sign up for.
Yeah.
And then they just sit there and don't interact with the world and get butt mad that the game isn't doing what they want.
I did actually have a guy leave one of my games at Dragon Meet. He was really, really nice about it. He was there, realized that it was kind of a very player-driven game. And it was one where I was gonna be throwing things at him and expecting him to, like, invent new bits of the world. And I very clearly outlined this at the beginning, and he said, well, I just don't think this is going to be the game for me. And he was really nice about it. And it was a pity, because, he might have enjoyed it, but he wasn't sure. So, worked out quite well.
See, I had similar, but the opposite at an event I was recently at, in that the group of players that I had along, so they had a choice. They could either play Shadowrun or the Sprawl. And let's be honest here, Shadowrun, if you can name a more crunchy, non-comedic system to me, I'll be impressed. Like, that game is just a block of murdered tree. Like,
it's the thing I love about it sometimes. But...
Yeah, but if you're a random spot at a convention, though, and you've signed up to play a quick game of an RPG you don't know.
Yes, I can imagine that being quite intimidating.
Yeah, so I outlined, the differences between the two and that lot, and they were all people who'd played in games of mine previously that week. So, I thought I had a reasonably good handle on them.
Yeah.
And then when it came down to the part of the Sprawl where, like you say, you're creating the world around you, a couple of them really got it, but there was this one person who was playing who just shut down.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what I did, they just weren't there. And it's like, and I'm sat there like, come on, like, you are spending your valuable time at this convention doing the thing I am offering. I want it to be good.
Yeah.
And I tried to pull them into the game and that lot, and then I found out later on that basically while they were deciding the world, they had put an idea forwards that the other 4 players didn't like, and they just got butt mad for the rest of the game. But yeah, sorry, we are massively digressing. Not that we've ever done that, eh?
No, totally not. Totally not. So yeah, we were going for starting points. I think is a good starting point. If you're going to try to create a game world, what's that very first bit of the process?
So for me, and this is because I'm an idiot, I love maps. I love maps. I will gladly spend a day making a map that never gets used. But for me, I like to have kind of the shape of the world I'm going to be running. And when I say a map, I don't mean the whole world. I'm an island, a city, a stretch of river. We're talking keep small, keep where you realistically expect your players will be able to explore and wander around in the first 3 or 4 sessions. Because, like I say, if a game doesn't last 3 sessions, it's probably going nowhere. So at least you've not wasted more time than you have to. And then the next one, and this is going to be hard for a lot of quote unquote experienced GMs, put nothing in that doesn't directly affect the players. So because the thing is there's going to be someone who will pop up and they'll go, but the drainage system in my city matters because that makes it a completely realized fantasy reality. Cool. Doesn't matter to your players.
Even I'm not quite that bad.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter to your players. It doesn't matter to the public at large. Well, the number 1 game I run at events is the Sepulture Tower, which is effectively the plot behind it is way back when there was a tower that was created that stretched down to the depths of hell and up to the highest heavens. And if you entered the tower with pure intent, you could battle your way to wherever you needed to go to and rescue or bring back a loved one from the afterlife. And then the tower fell into decay, so it became that you could spend time with them rather than bringing them back. And then it became that you could talk to them and see them and and so on and so forth. And now eventually the tower has fallen to such a level of decay that all you can do is if you make your way down to the base of what remains of the tower, there is a well. And if you name a loved one and ask a question, they will answer it with information that they had when they were alive.
Oh.
So it's just ask and answer a single question known to the person you are invoking. Okay?
Wow.
So, it's a fairly, let's be honest here, it's not exactly Tolstoy, is it? But for new players, it's easy. Go into tower, go down tower, find well, ask questions, high five, go home.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this tower exists. So the tower exists on top of a small hill in some in some kind of semi-abandoned wilderness. That's it. That's all of the background of the tower. That's where it exists. That's what's near it. That's it. Because
you don't need the name of the guy who built it or anything like that.
Nope. Because the Sepulture Tower exists solely as a convention one-shot for me. It never exists anywhere else. So I don't need a campaign world to go with it. I don't need to know all of the gods in the reality. I don't need any of that because I've written all the characters, I've written the world, I've written the adventure. So, my players don't need to know if gnomes in my world the males tend to take the female's last name and the greatest prankster among them becomes their king, because it doesn't matter. In terms of their adventure, it's just tower, do thing.
Hopefully come back.
Yeah, and maybe that's crass and derivative, and I'm selling short the genre of games, but I don't know about you, but I play games to do things. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm being strange here, but I play games to like, when I play D&D, I wanna be heroic. I want to adventure. I want that escapism. Fair enough. That escapism might be that, yeah, I'm going to go into very tense, close negotiations with the ogre king,
Yeah.
and there's going to be no combat because in my life I am never going to go into tense, close negotiations with any head of state.
That could be an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, but it's still like that's what I'm there for. I'm there for the fantastic. And it makes me sad really when I see like new GMs who are so full of hope that the players will love their campaign world that they've kind of killed it before it had a chance.
Yeah. It's very hard to not get precious over things in it as well.
I mean, when I worked making games, we used to call it drowning babies.
Okay.
Because, you got your game, you got your design, it's your baby.
Yep.
And then someone's got to come along to make it the best possible baby it can be and try and drown it. Someone's got to sit there and go, hang about, why do you want us to spend $1,000 on the lighting?
Yeah.
Like this game's going to be on a DS.
No
it's
one's going to notice.
Exactly. And that kind of, that is always my argument. If no one's going to notice and no one's really going to care and you're not selling it, if you're selling it, fair enough. You do need kind of a semi-complete campaign world. But if that's not happening, why give yourself the grief,
Because if you're selling a campaign world, you're selling the campaign world as the product.
Yeah, you're basically selling a novel. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
You're selling the elements of your campaign world that make it your campaign world. You're not selling a game because campaign worlds exist within games.
Yeah.
I mean, you ever heard my joke about how to find a games writer?
Oh, go on.
So the way you find a games writer is you go to a sufficiently crowded area full of nerds and throw a brick in the air. Whoever it hits is a games writer. And if they weren't, the blow to the head will have made them one. I look forward to the hate mail. It's
good.
But it's just like when you are running a D&D game, think of things in terms of discrete chunks. So, if this was about dungeon and encounter design, no one would be saying like, well, when you design an encounter, every goblin needs a backstory, and I have to know that they have to have individual names, and I have to know what how they feel about their fathers and all of this lot. No one would ever suggest or ask for that, would they?
Occasionally, though, making a table of names, it can be really, really fun.
Oh, yeah.
The first time they cut down the goblin who's trying to flee, and it's like, oh, you killed Jerry, and then having a name really can change things.
Oh, yeah, but that's a beat. That's not
different
like
thing.
Yeah. And and whereas like there's this idea within a campaign world that you have to have all of that. You have to have everything spelled out. Every town has to be drawn on the map, every river, every street, everything. When if you were designing an encounter, if you were designing a dungeon, no designer guide on the planet would suggest that.
No.
And that's
Dungeon World has put it quite well with draw maps, leave gaps, I believe is the phrasing that they use.
Yeah, and I mean, even then, like, I only draw maps because I like maps, and actually I don't really draw maps. I have a suite of tools that let me auto-generate maps.
Yeah.
And I will merrily sit there for half an hour clicking a map, clicking a map, clicking a map, clicking a map. Oh, that's nice. I'll use that.
Yeah. I think the one for me is sort of circle bubble charts, like the connected bubbles.
Yeah.
That's my one. the one that I like to do with those sort of things. And then I'll like if I've got sort of themes and concepts, I'll just write them in big bits on the sides, and I like that sort of thing. That's my one.
Yeah,
I suppose that's possibly slightly different because that's a tool just for me, whereas the map. Do you show your maps to the players?
Oh yeah, sure.
Directly?
Well,
yeah.
It depends on the game. I have had a couple of games where the players live in mystery and they don't see the maps. But I have a map of the island that my players are on, and it's got which political party is in charge of which area. And I got a map of the city, and all my players have maps of the city, and it's all labeled and that lot. But the political power thing is just a kind of just a gimme for me. Like it's not actually for my players. But
it's a memory aid more than anything, or
not even that. It's never come up.
Really?
Yeah, they've gone through 3 kind of counties in the island that they're based on.
Yeah.
And one of them is under control of a different political party. But the thing is each county is kind of its own separate little king. Think a bit like the United States. They are all provisionally the same country, but it's lots of different principalities.
Yeah.
And the political thing hasn't mattered because they're currently in a principality that the principality that they're from is at war with. So it doesn't matter if it's Labour or Conservative. You're at war, goddammit.
Yeah. It's who you're at war with exactly is possibly not important to the plot.
Yeah, well, you are at war with the dude who keeps stabbing you.
Yes.
Like.
Yeah. Any finer details, less.
Yeah.
Important than the stabbing in the face.
Exactly. And the thing is like, I had one of my players complain at me because he said like, because they went undercover as a trading caravan and joined up with this other caravan of traders. And these traders are all from the country that they're at war, well, the principality that they're at war with.
Yeah.
And, they ventured along the route and they've ended up in the city that the lead of the caravan, Sebastian, is from.
Yeah. And
one of my players was like, you've made these people too sympathetic. It's going to make it really hard to commit genocide now. It's
that's one of those wonderful moments that you just get in role-playing games sometimes.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like the actual political climate, the actual like who is sat in the central council and who holds the I can't even remember what it's called. Who holds the seat of the quora?
Yeah.
Like my players, I don't think my players are even asked who holds the seat of the quora, nor do they care.
No.
But
if they were doing a game about political maneuvering, that might be different.
Yeah. However, they do care that in Sebastian's home city, there's been every winter, everything freezes over. So once you're in the city during the winter, you're stuck there. And once everything freezes over, people start getting murdered. That the players care about. They want to know, who's messing with our friend. And that's the thing,
cool.
That when I started the campaign a few years ago, Blackcleave, the city they're in, didn't even exist. Sebastian didn't exist.
No.
The trade caravan didn't exist. The original plot for the game was the way back when, they're not sure how long ago, all written records were destroyed. All of them. All carvings, all records, everything was destroyed. It's known as the Burning Time.
Wow.
And no one knows why. So the players, as adventurers, work for a major university, and their job is to go into tombs and old places and that lot, and try and find writing, trying to find books and carvings and stuff like that. And in return for adventuring into these dangerous areas, the players get to keep anything they find which isn't written.
Okay.
So you end up with this hilarious situation where you've got players high-fiving because they found a book.
Yeah,
Like,
because that's pay dirt.
yeah, they're like, oh boy, a Bible, But that was the original plot, and then the players were getting bored of like dungeon crawly, explory stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool. Well, you guys have proven yourself as adventurers, so here is a war. The Sandpoint, the principality you're in, has gone to war with Eastbourne. You guys are adventurers. Congrats, lads! You've been drafted.
Ah.
And you're being sent on this thing, Operation Manticore. So then that became the focus of the thing. Was like, okay, well, we're doing Operation Manticore now. We've got to stay focused so that we can, do our mission.
Yeah.
And then as part of Operation Manticore, they thought, right, well, the easiest way to get around Eastbourne without getting caught is we'll find an Eastbourne trading caravan which is being ejected from Sandpoint, and we'll go
with them.
Yeah, and we'll go, hey guys, we're from East. We were originally from Eastbourne as well. Can we hang around with you? And they did that, and then the players were like, okay, cool. So we're with these guys, and we'll go around with them. And oh, those monsters are attacking the caravan. Well, we need to protect them to keep our cover. Oh, we've gone to this city, which is really weird and kind of Stepford Wife-ish, and these guys seem really nervous. Well, let's not mess about because it will blow our cover and it might endanger them. And then it just openly became, there's this cult and it's that, our friends are in danger. Let's get them.
Yeah. It's really great when people connect with NPCs.
Yeah. But the point is, none of that, not a bit of it existed when that campaign started.
I was about to ask how that ties back. So your advice really is focusing on a little bit of starting plot and then just build it as you go.
Yeah, but I mean, have an idea. Think of it like a bit like a TV series. You know how you watch like The Expanse, and it's like, oh no, a ship got blown up. But why did the ship get blown up? And then that evolves into, oh god, there's this thing and there's this thing and machinations and there's an evil cult and there's this and there's this and there's this.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the start of The Expanse is, hey, there's a weird thing and the ship got blown up.
Yeah, my Exalted game got kicked off with the players fleeing from this city called Dawns that had been invaded by the undead, and just trying to get safe, really.
Yeah.
And that's how the game kicked off.
But that's the thing, that doesn't make a campaign, though. Like, a thing, them having to flee a thing does not make a whole campaign,
Yeah.
It's all the individual bits that make up the campaign.
But
and,
I got the sort of feel for what they wanted out of the campaign. And so I could start building that instead of building the wrong thing.
Well, and the other thing is, like that actually ties in perfectly, because one of the things that seems to baffle me with, like, if you go on Reddit and stuff like that, is that apparently everyone who runs games in the modern world is a complete psychopath that has no connection with their players whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
Your players are meat plows that roll dice and ruin your plans. And it's like, no, like, my players are Halvor, Lost, Daisy, Neb, and Saxim, or Robert, Bonnie. This is often I call them by their character names. Ben and Patters. Like, that's the thing. They're people. I know what they like.
Yeah.
I know that Robert likes messing with things, and I know that Bonnie is cautious, but is kind of the voice of reason for the group. And I know that Halvor is a gigantic coward, but if he can show off, he's in.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how people can go, well, I can't design games for my players because I don't know them. It's like, you what? Do you just not listen to each other for, do you literally turn up for D&D and not talk?
Yeah. I've seen quite a few threads on there's a Stack Overflow for role-playing games, Stack Exchange. And there's quite a few on there where I've pretty much just answered with, okay, have you tried talking with your player? I'm going to assume you have, otherwise this conversation is pointless. where did it break down?
Yeah, and I mean, we're
And
not.
quite often I'll get the response back of, well, I've not said anything to them about it yet. It's like, well, that's a good start.
Yeah, and it's not. But I mean, that's like a common one with problem players. But you know,
It's often with engagement as well.
yeah, exactly. Like the number one reason why games die is because people aren't engaged, be it the GM or the players.
Yeah.
You know, I have a campaign that I want to run, and I would kill my own mother to run this campaign. God, I want to run it. But my players would not be interested in the slightest. So there's no point trying to run it, because all that's going to happen is the campaign that I so desperately want to run will be stillborn, and it will make me sad.
Yeah.
You know? And I think, I mean, I don't know, when did you start role playing?
Ooh, back in college, so about 60 years ago.
So what year? Like,
that'll be 2001 /2, I think.
so like height of World of Darkness, beginning of 3.5.
Yeah, I started on like end of 3, start of 3.5.
Yeah, okay, cool. So like I'm just gonna whip out my nerd flag. So like I started when I was but a wee lad, and I played like first edition D&D with relatives, and like, you know, 28 years ago or something ridiculous like that was when I started.
Yeah.
But I started vastly younger than the average person does.
Oh yeah.
My cousin needed to babysit us and needed something to distract us, so ran D&D for me and my brother. And like the number one thing he taught me about D&D and all of that lot is you are a party, you are a group. No one person can carry the party. And if you have to die for the party to succeed, them's the breaks. Because, you know, realistically, if you are a proper party, they'll have you back. You know, they'll resurrect you, they'll raise you, they'll
come up
avenge
with some cunning plan.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I don't know if I'm just being an old man and complaining now, but it seems like with a lot of newer players and newer GM, it's kind of like, no, you're the superstar. The spotlight's on you. And it's like, no, this is a shared experience. Like, and that shared experience includes your GM.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I've written a few advice sheets over the years, and for people running games at conventions. And one of the things I kind of try to make explicit is this is supposed to be fun for everybody.
Yeah.
And that does include the GM.
You know,
and often that can get forgotten.
Yeah. And the thing is like, you know, myself and you have an advantage in that we have quite forceful personality. You know, when we're within our comfort zone of, like, you know, sat behind the screen, I don't know about you, but I certainly take no crap. You know, like, I am there to run a game and enjoy myself running the game. I don't care if you want to tell me how your Nixikin bard is actually secretly the princeling of the fairy courts or whatever. That has nothing to do with my game. You know, let's get down to playing. Whereas like a lot of other newer GMs, that's an impossibility. You know, I can't shout at my player. Okay, I have shouted at a couple of players. I'm not gonna lie, but you know, I can't object to my players, because without my players, I'm nothing. And it's like, well, and likewise without you, they ain't got a game to play.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a fun shared experience.
Yeah, and
it's very important not to forget that. I think.
Yeah, and you know, and also conversely, without that world, without that setting, they haven't got a game to play. Without the adventure that you wrote, they haven't got a game to play. And so, you know, going back to the campaign building thing and the world building thing, if you enjoy writing out thousands and thousands and thousands of words that no one's ever going to care about but you, do it. More power to you. You know? But if not having your cool stuff seen is going to, you know, put a dampener on your experience, then for the love of God, don't write a campaign world. Like, you know, it'll break your heart.
Yeah, there's a reason why they're called fantasy heartbreakers.
Yeah, You know, the number of pet projects, like, and I mean, if you want to publish one, like, so I've done some freelance writing for the RPG industry, and you know, I've done. Do you remember Mongoose's Sevens series?
No.
So it was back in the heyday of OGL,
Yeah.
and Mongoose used to produce these little books. They sold for about £2, £3, and it was like 7 traps, 7 NPCs,
Right.
7 magic items, and they were known as the Seven series.
Yeah.
My God, they were great for new designers and writers and that lot, because it was just like, yeah, we'll pay you like $20, write us a trap.
Yeah, I've had a bit of work doing something similar.
Yeah.
But in my case, it was more like 50 odd. But
well, yeah, but this wasn't
Yeah.
even you're writing 50. It was you were writing a trap.
Yeah.
For the book of 7 of them, you know, and the number of guys that would be on the same project, because obviously we chat with each other because we're all writing in the same damn book.
Yeah.
And the number of guys that would be on this project, and you'd be like, cool. So why are you doing this? It's like, well, I just need some money. That's why I'm doing it. Why are you doing it? Oh, well, I want to get my campaign world of Felonthethra published. And it's like, rut-row raggy.
Yes, the Felon Theft and Far Kickstarter was a bit of a nightmare.
But you know, and they're like, and you go, okay, cool. Can I take a look at it? And they go, no.
Yeah, it's not ready yet. Is one of the
like,
good ones.
Oh, how many words is it? Oh, I don't know. Probably over 1 million. Oh, I've made up 4 different languages and I've written sonnets in them. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, like, and oh Lord, oh Lordy, Lord.
Oh, this has gone ranty as this one.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just, and you get these poor guys who they care. Oh God, they care, but no one else did.
Yeah. So one of the big trends I've seen in more modern games is getting your players involved in creating the game world, which is a technique that we did use in Temporal Stereotype Zoo. So do you feel that makes things easier, harder? I know it's more communication, which is gonna be hard for some people.
Yeah, I think it's much more. It comes down to the GM. Like, if you can react on the fly, it's great because you've got that hook already. Your players are in. You
know that they're interested in this thing because they're the ones who suggested it.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're not, if you're like so there's an active GM where you guide the plot. There's a reactive GM where the players guide the plot and you sculpt it around them. Would it be a progressive GM where you lay it out and you allow the players to progress along it? Would that be? Do you think that's acceptable nomenclature?
I think it's an architect.
Okay, an architectural GM. Okay.
It seems like you build this structure in which they can kind of work.
They can break things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you're an architect GM, it's a blasted hellscape from which there can be no escape. Because you are handing over the thing that you care about as a GM, which is being able to craft things and moderate things. I mean, I don't know if we mentioned it in the Stereotype Zoo Roundup. I'm sure you've seen the public service announcement of You Are Not Matt Mercer.
No, I haven't.
Oh man. So right, so I'm going to go not quite old man Moley, but friendly Moley. I see time and time and time again from new hopeful GMs or players who are just getting into the hobby getting disappointed because either they're playing a bard, say, and their GM, and they use bardic inspiration, and their GM's like, okay, sing a song. And they go, what? Sing a song when you don't get bardic inspiration. Okay. Night fever, night fever. No, you have to make up a song. For this specific circumstance. It's like, I'm just a nerd. Like, or they're like, why don't you have a character voice? Or why doesn't every NPC have a different character voice? Or, you know, and basically it's people have seen these actual play podcasts, which are, you know, quite tightly, I won't say scripted, but, you know, they're functionally strong. Yeah, they're a product.
Yeah.
And they think that that is role playing. You know, a bit like how people think that porn is sex. You know, that kind of. And there was this PSA that went around, which is like, you are not Matt Mercer, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Which basically boils down to, like, you know, these guys are professionals. Like, I've met Matt Mercer. He's a lovely bloke, and he is sharp. Like, dude is crazy. Well, in the words of Good Will Hunting, dude is wicked smart. Like, you know. So, and he's a professional voice actor who's been doing it for, you know, years and years and years and years and years. Of course, he's going to be bloody good at it.
Yeah.
You know, and he's running a game with professionals that are
yeah
funny people. You know, like your first campaign world. Do you read poetry much?
Not often.
Okay, so one of my greatest flaws is that I love poetry. And
I'm not quite sure how that's a flaw, but I'm sure you can explain.
Yeah, because there is quite a famous line from a poetry reviewer and critic, and he said, ultimately, poetry is only written for poets. And that's the thing. When you're writing campaign worlds, when you're creating games, when you're GMing and writing stuff is really only for the GMs. The players will consume it, but they don't. Well, they do care, but they don't care in the same amount that you do.
Yeah, it's not symmetric.
Yeah, it's not symmetric. You are crafting this for you and other GMs. Like, you know, one of the greatest compliments I ever received was one of the guys who I really idolized and really kind of taught me he helped me level up my GMing skills and my, you know, my game design skills. He saw one of my campaign worlds and was like, that's really cool, man. You've done a really good job. Like, that really meant something to me.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the stuff he saw in it wasn't what matched what my players saw.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, imagine it's like poetry. You know, you are writing this for someone else who is basically you.
Yeah.
To appreciate. You're not writing it for your players to appreciate. And also, conversely, much like poetry, if you want to write poetry, the only way you can get good at writing poetry is by reading poetry. You know, the classic line of every good writer is an amazing reader.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't build good campaign worlds if you're not reading campaign worlds. And I mean, you know, and I will never suggest the illegal downloading of products ever, but get hold of, however you so choose, you know, campaign worlds. Get hold of Forgotten Realms, get hold of Eberron, get hold of Exalted, get hold of World of Darkness, get hold of
Nibilis is a lovely one.
Yeah, Engel. Get hold of whatever you can get your grubby little paws on and read it. Yeah. And then, but don't read it as in, you know, flick through it. Sit there and read it. And when you read about something and go, yeah, it's kind of crappy, figure out why. Sit there and go, why, you know, is it just that I don't like it? Or is it that this is genuinely badly written? So, like, Temporal Stereotype Zoo. Buddy of mine has told me that it is one of the worst single-page games he has ever seen or heard of. I was like, wow, them strong words. And he said, because it is clearly written by a bunch of GMs to be read and played by a bunch of GMs.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's what it is, dude. Like, you know, you got us.
Yeah.
You know, if the volcano layer fits. And he said, like, it's not that it's a bad game, it's that he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't fulfill what he desires in a game. And that's that's kind of the thing, is learning what you desire for a game to accomplish, and then creating the campaign world to support that.
Yeah. One of my sort of techniques that I use is I start with an image.
Yeah, that can work.
And that way I've always got something to refer back to, that if my world is not accomplishing making this awesome, something has gone wrong in the pipeline somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, mine is the old video game designer trick of 15 words or less.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I've also used about 5-6 bullet points of things that should be expected to happen.
Yeah.
You know, one of the workshops that I run, which is a RPG design one, you start off with bullet points of what you are trying to achieve, things like that. So I think that sort of thing is kind of very important, personally.
Yeah, I mean, being able to, like, one of my favorite exercises for when I haven't taught for a while, but I'm looking to teach games design classes again in the not too distant future. But yeah, just dropping a hint. But one of the biggest ones I was ever taught by a designer I quite respect was, he said, okay, you have got to come up with your overall, your top level concept. So, okay, that's cool. And he said, right, imagine that for every word you use past 10, I'm going to come up to you and, as hard as I can, punch you in the face.
Yeah.
It's like, huh. It's like, okay, now write your top level brief. And suddenly
they get a lot more concise.
Yeah, because every word becomes precious, because, yeah, it might be that you need that 16th word. It's so important, and you're willing to take getting nailed in the face for it.
Yeah.
But, when you're up to the 45th word, you can probably lose a few of them.
I mean, we did use that technique with temporal stereotypes too. It was one of the things that we did that was sort of baked into the sort of script for the show.
Yeah.
I say script. It's like a time outline that we have.
We have a Google Doc. Let's not even. And I'm pretty sure that at least two of us, mostly because it's one of them was me, didn't even have it open while we were doing it.
I think it might have just been me. But
yeah,
I'm the sort of person that likes that sort of thing.
You are the time Führer. Oh man. Oh no, I've got another RPG I want to design.
Time Führer.
Yeah. I don't know what it would involve, but it just saying it makes me feel happy.
it kind of sounds like, a really odd drinking board game.
one that gets you kicked out of UK Board Games Expo.
I mean, so if we're going to do that, that's on the Sunday, right?
Yeah. We are not designing a drinking game between now and Sunday of UK Board Games Expo to get us kicked out of UK Board Games Expo. I am not doing this, man.
Design it live in the open games area. John, if you're listening, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, if someone is willing to supply me with tequila and a convenient excuse to get off work, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll do that.
Oh, remind me about the walnuts. I should have them.
Okay.
Anyway, enough of that random non sequitur. So yeah,
yeah. So, to condense this down, because admittedly, we've just kind of chat. This isn't that concise. But then again, it's our podcast. We'll have a chat.
Yeah.
The thing is be concise, be specific. Make sure that what you are producing is focused on your players and what they want. Because otherwise, it'll break your heart. You will lose the keen for your campaign world so quickly, because you'll have all of this cool stuff that you just desperately want your players to see.
Yeah. On that note, though, as well, if you do mess it up and write the wrong thing, just don't panic. You're capable of writing new good stuff. You already wrote one lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
You've got it in you to do it again.
it's like the so as people who have listened to this might realize, I'm quite into weird, obscure historical things. The 4-minute mile. You ever seen any of the stuff about that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so running the 4-minute mile was considered to be not only impossible but fatal.
Yeah.
Like doctors were saying that if you ran a 4-minute mile, your heart would explode in your chest. Like the human body cannot function at that speed for that length of time. Okay, and then a dude did it. Okay, and I mean, when I say he did it, he ran a mile in 3 minutes and 58.7 seconds. We're talking, it was
very
just
close to the line.
Yeah. But he did it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it became possible. In fact, like I think it was within 3 years, it was considered like if you want to call yourself an elite athlete, elite runner, you have to be able to run a 4-minute mile.
Yeah. Because the expectations changed.
Yeah, exactly. It has become possible. So, same thing with your writing, same thing with your creating. If you can create something that is good and you stand by it being good, well done. That's your 3-minute mile. That's your 4-minute mile. Now you can do it again and again and again and again. And ultimately, if you want to do games design for a job,
you're going to have to.
That's all it is. It's just doing that one thing again and again and again and again and again and again and again.
I think we should probably end on a high note.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
it's just depressing because it isn't.
So like I say, keep what you're doing focused, unlike this podcast. Keep what you're doing brief, unlike this podcast.
True.
Don't add extraneous detail if it's not needed. Just for Christ's sake, have fun. Like, when did D&D become so serious? Like, when did it matter to so many people, apparently, whether or not, everything was represented in your world and everything conformed to societal norms. When was the last time you met an elf? If you don't want half elves in your world, great, there's no half elves.
Yeah.
You want to give a reason?
Magical accident.
Yeah, there you go. It turns out there are half elves. They just look like humans or elves. You want orcs to be the old pigmen style orcs? Great, orcs are the pigmen style of orcs now. Yeah. If it doesn't fundamentally make a difference to your campaign world, go nuts. Yeah, do what you want. However, if it is a fundamental thing to your campaign world, and this is kind of the thing I will leave you on, and one of your players gets booty bothered and wants to change it, don't bow to their pressure. Because ultimately, you have created the world for them to enjoy, and they should be willing to meet you halfway.
Yeah.
If you say there are no drow, it doesn't matter how pouty you get, there's no drow. There's not one drow, there's no drow. So yeah, that's the thing. Remember, much like the 4-minute mile, once you have created something good, you can keep creating good stuff. And never, ever, ever compromise on what you think is good stuff if you know it's good stuff.
Cool. Well, thanks for that.
Yep, no problem.
There's quite a lot of advice there.
Yeah,
for
and
people to
I hope
unpack
to God, I hope to God people can unpick it. I will potentially post up some of the stuff I did for Borena and that lot, and some of the kind of higher level concepts that I use in design at some point. But to be honest, my life is pretty manic at the moment, so it's going to have to wait until things become unmanicked. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for that. And next up, it's going to be Dimitri.
Yes.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.